So the LeBron James led Los Angeles Lakers in the last 10 games are 3-7, and they are in a one-game tie with the Mavericks and the Portland Trailblazers to be out for the play-in tournament. What is going on with the Los Angeles Lakers right now?
Yeah, I've been trying to warn Tyler for a very long time. If the Lakers are not 100%, they are not going to the NBA Finals. That's period. We talked about this last podcast. I forgot which one. I think it was Tyler. I think he said if LeBron James is on the court, they're going to the finals. I
I said
said
that.
there is too many very good basketball teams in the Western Conference right now. The Phoenix Suns, the Utah Jazz, the Los Angeles Clippers. They're probably not going. They're probably not getting out the first round. Now, at this particular point, there's pretty much an APB out for Anthony Davis. Last game against the Nuggets, he was decent. But ever since the finals, he has not been the same. In the finals, he was putting up 30 and 16 numbers. Right now, he's pretty much putting up the 20 and 10s. Even that, sometimes he's putting up to the 16s and it's the 16 and 8s. At this particular point, we need Anthony Davis to be the Anthony Davis that we all know and love. LeBron James is not going to be 100%. The high ankle sprain is definitely a very terrible injury. I've had it. I've seen Odell go through it multiple times. I've seen Saquon Barkley go through it. When we talk about freak athletes, this is probably the kryptonite of freak athletes. You cannot get past this high ankle sprain. A couple of weeks isn't necessarily going to be good enough to actually come back 100% from the high ankle sprain. And being a slasher that LeBron James is, not necessarily the shooter that Kevin Durant is, he's not necessarily going to be as effective if his lower body, if his legs, if his feet are not 100%. I think at this particular time, we have to come to the realization that the Lakers are probably not going to the finals. Period. They're probably not going to the semifinals. They're probably not going to the second round. That's just the
Wow.
situation.
Yeah, man. I don't know what you're talking about, Rob, because that is just false. Now, if the Lakers are not 100% healthy, they may not go to the finals. And here's why. You talk about the Phoenix Suns. Okay, the Phoenix Suns have shown they've shown me enough that they're valid. They're a proven team. But you yourself talk about how the Jazz cannot keep up this historically sustainable 3-point shooting percentage of hitting 50% as a team. That's just not going to happen. The Clippers, I still do not have faith in Paul George when it comes to the playoffs. So there's that. So when you look around, it's still kind of the Lakers' conference to lose, but only if they're healthy. Now, I believe that Anthony Davis, much like last season, is going to have to step up big and be that go-to guy, the main guy, while LeBron just captains the ship. AD is going to have to be the one to really go off and have these crazy nights. Now, no team is going to be able to do good, when they're injured. And you guys recently heard the news about how Dennis Schroeder is going to be out 10 to 14 days due to safety and health protocols. That's a big hit for the Lakers. That's really their only other playmaker on the court. So, if you really want to know what's going on with the Lakers, it's really that simple. They're just not healthy right now. The chemistry is off. I mean, but those are just excuses. When you have LeBron James on your team and he's willing to suit up and go on the court and play, you got to figure it out, man. No excuses.
I've been saying it since the injuries started happening, and it's getting closer and closer to that time where the playoffs are around the corner and the Lakers still haven't figured it out because of the injuries. It's not a good thing for them because the last thing you want to do is figure it out in the playoffs. The playoffs is not a time for you to figure it out. You should already have your game plan. People already should know where they need to be in certain times. The chemistry needs to be there. You can't gain that chemistry in the playoffs and go on a run, especially if they do fall to be in this play-in tournament. It's bad news for the Lakers. Look, I know who LeBron James is. I know he flips a switch come playoff time, but I don't think he can do it by himself in the Western Conference. This
I
isn't
mean,
the Eastern Conference.
we've seen injured LeBron try to flip the switch already. I mean, he said he was going zero dark 30 the year he basically got groin injury, and he couldn't even get to the eighth seed. His team went 8-13 after he came back, and after he activated zero dark 30. So at this particular point, whatever LeBron James tweets out, he could delete the app of Twitter for all I care. I don't necessarily think he's going to be 100%, and because of that, I don't necessarily see the Lakers even getting past the Denver Nuggets at this particular point. He needs to make, not him. I think Anthony Davis needs to make drastic changes if I believe that they could even get out the second round and actually be in like the semifinals and potentially even go to the finals.
Oh, stop it! The Denver Nuggets are not beating the Lakers. Can we stop? You're not gonna lose a talent like
They
Jamal
just
Murray.
lost to the whoa. They just lost to the Kings without De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes, without their two best players. What we have to understand is that they are down bad, bruh. They're down bad.
Let me explain to you something, man. There's a big difference between that regular season up and down for 4 quarters game and then half court set playoff series. In a half court set, I want LeBron James against any other team in this league. The game slows down, and we got to remember the Lakers are still top 5 ranked in defense. Like the Lakers still play good defense. It's the offense that they have to get it together. And the reason why they're so far behind in defense is because a lot of teams play up tempo basketball. You know, they push the break. That's not the Lakers right now, especially with these injuries. But in a half court set, when you got AD and LeBron who can just go on the block and give you literally 20 to 25 each without having to go up and down all game, I'll take it.
Now wait a minute. I know you're trying to be nice, but let's not sugarcoat this. You talking about they have to get their offense better, bruh. They are the worst offense in the league, 30th in the league when LeBron James is not on the court.
Yeah.
And we talking about LeBron James is gonna injured LeBron James that's gonna potentially have to play 40 to 45 minutes in the playoffs. That's not happening. I'm sorry.
Look, I understand, Ty. I understand what you're saying, and when I say this, I don't want it to seem diminishing to LeBron James or taking anything away from LeBron James, but this is not the Eastern Conference. LeBron James can't do this. He can't do what he did in the Eastern Conference here in the West. The West is a different ball game, all right? LeBron needs help. LeBron needs to be healthy. Without healthy help, we'll leave it to that. Healthy help, the Lakers aren't going anywhere. Even if LeBron James is 75% in the playoffs, he needs more. It is not going to go down the way you think it is in the Western Conference.
See, bro, y'all not understanding, man. You're right. This is not the Eastern Conference. You're absolutely right. But you got to understand, a lot of these Western Conference teams at full strength still end up struggling or not even making the playoffs. Last season, the narrative was, oh, the Portland Trailblazers aren't your average AFC, so the Lakers should watch out. And we seen what happened to that. It's all about making adjustments. Y'all don't think that LeBron James, and this is an honest question, it's not rhetorical. Y'all don't think that LeBron James is injured and all is going to be able to make the changes, adjust his game, and adjust what the team needs to be able to compete in a 7-game series against these Western Conference teams?
The state of the Los Angeles Lakers isn't the same as last year for him to just make these changes and be okay. They need help. They need health.
All right.
We've seen this already. I mean, why are we acting like we have not seen an injured LeBron James already? We've seen an injured LeBron James with his groin coming average about 27 points per game. Was still doing very fine numbers wise, but overall he just did not have the same impact. And right now he's not even showing up numbers wise. I just personally believe that LeBron James is not necessarily going to flip that switch. Now, don't get me wrong. I personally believe I'm not a LeBron hater. I personally believe that LeBron James is the greatest player that has ever played the game of basketball. I have all the respect in the world for LeBron James, but I just can't see him getting past an ankle injury right now, the high ankle sprain. Especially if Anthony Davis is giving you 16 and 8 boards, you need Anthony Davis to come in and give you 30 and 15 to have any chance of winning the finals.
I agree, and I agree because I pointed that out. Just like similar to last year, Anthony Davis has to be the guy to give you those crazy stats. But I still think that even at both of them at 75%, because I'm not worried because we still have a little bit more time before the playoffs come around. And I do also think that teams can get it together in the playoffs. But Anthony Davis, LeBron James are still going to be the best two players on the court throughout the Western Conference playoff series. And that I just think that's what it is. I think they're just going to figure it out. We got to give LeBron James more benefit of the doubt. I mean, if anything else, that's what he's earned through his illustrious career.
Look, I hope LeBron does make me eat my words because I love LeBron and I love to see greatness. But just to put it into perspective, this is a regular season game, and I know superstars, they don't care about regular season games anymore, but this is a at-home game against the Toronto Raptors with both LeBron James and Anthony Davis on the court. They lost 121 to 114. Anthony Davis shot 5 for 16, scoring 12 points. While LeBron James, 6 for 11, 19 points. He did what he could. But on the other end, Pascal Siakam went off for 39, and Kyle Lowry went off for 37. I understand Anthony Davis just came back from injury. He's still getting his feet back under him. He played 33 minutes, but 39 from Pascal Siakam, I feel like the Lakers are in trouble, man. I feel like they're in trouble.
I don't know. It's too early to tell for me, man. And the Toronto Raptors are a really good team. They can do that to anybody in this league. But like I said, man, we're just gonna have to see. Time will tell what happens.
Which Toronto Raptors are we talking about when we say they're a really good team in this league?
This Toronto Raptors team is very scrappy, and to the point where a lot of guys wanted to trade for Kyle Lowry. There's even a narrative that should the Lakers regret not trading for Kyle Lowry, that Toronto Raptors team on paper may not be the most all-star historic team or superstar team, but they play together and they have some really good dedicated guys, man. That's all. That's really what it is.
I understand what you're saying about Kyle Lowry, but they're not good on paper and they're not good on the court, and that's why they're currently 27 and 38 in the league right now. The Washington Wizards came from the bottom of the conference and surpassed the Toronto Raptors.
Well, let's not act like the Washington Wizards weren't already supposed to be where they're at. They're just now getting it together because they have Russell Westbrook and his greatness. But listen, the Raptors are still an NBA team. They're still an NBA champion within the last 3 years. It can happen to any team any given night.
Well, we're definitely looking forward to see what the Lakers do to close out the season.
Absolutely.